Hello there, and welcome to another video. If you don't know me, my name is Maki. Here with me is the lovely Michael Scott, taking a very well-deserved nap, right? And today I have a little bit of a different type of video for you. The thing is, I've been reading and researching books and trying to find books that I really love for a really long time now. And the thing that I feel about cozy books might be a little bit of a hot take because even though I understand the hype, I sometimes feel like they are not exactly the type of books that really makes you feel nurtured and welcomed and just overall cozy. For me, I feel like cozy books are the ones that you read and actually make you feel like you received a hug after reading it. And they might destroy you emotionally a little bit, or they might make you think for days on end, or they might be sad. But when you finish reading it, you just feel that sense of being understood and held and just warm and fuzzy inside. So, with that idea in mind, today I brought to you three books that I read recently that I consider very cozy, even though they are not advertised as cozy, and also a bonus book for you to get to know a Brazilian author at the end. So, let's get to it. To get started, the first book I wanted to talk to you about is Wedding People by Alison Esbach. I think that's how you say her name, Alison Esbach. Hopefully, that's correct. This was definitely one of my favorite reads of 2025. I absolutely loved this book. And I remember that when I finished it, my review on Fable was exactly something like this book was the hug that I didn't know I needed. And my best friend, which recommended me the book, answered, I knew you did. So that's why I recommended it to you. So, yeah, this book is very dear to me. It definitely went into my favorite list of the year, and I think for life as well. And I really think this is the type of cozy read that is not exactly cozy, but will let you feeling all those warm and fuzzy feelings that I talked about at the beginning of the video. So if you've never heard about this book before, The Wedding People follows our protagonist, a woman in her late 30s, and she decided that she would spend her last days on earth in this hotel that she always wanted to visit with her former husband. So, yeah, Phoebe has decided to end her own life, and she chose to do it in a beautiful hotel with a view of the sea and, just trying to enjoy her last few moments by herself as much as she can. So, the only thing is, when she gets to the hotel, she discovers that the place is actually reserved for a wedding. So, everybody that's staying in the hotel is a guest at the wedding, and it was actually a mistake that she even got a room to begin with. She was not supposed to be there. She was not supposed to be able to stay there for that specific period. So she crashes a wedding kind of like by accident. But the thing is, being in a place where everybody knows each other and kind of like being assumed as part of the wedding party, she kind of starts to get to know all these people in this wedding, including the bride and the groom. So the book is really exploring Phoebe's relationship with these people that she just met and that are somehow kind of like integrating into her life and helping her work through her issues every day and in many different ways. And also how Phoebe got to the point that she is, and what are the ways that she can move forward if she so desires. Now, the reason why I love this book so much is that not only is it super sensible when it talks about topics like depression and, wishing to end one's life, but also because it's funny and it's witty and the writing is so smart. And I love the way the author describes the character and the main character and her relationship with each different character in the book, and also how she introduces her history and everything that led to that point, and how, it also shows a woman in her late 30s trying to figure it out, being imperfect and making mistakes and feeling lost, and just like trying to understand how she can move forward in a way that is respectful to herself, most of all, because she realizes, by the middle of the book, that she has been living her life for others and not for herself. So I feel like it really portrays a journey in a very small period of time. I think the story happens in about 4 or 5 days, something like that. But yeah, I really like the way that she portrays the story, how she writes it, how she describes it. I laughed a lot reading this book. I also cried a lot. I felt so understood and so touched by the struggles that this character went through. And it just, when I finished it, I was just staring at the void for a little while, just dealing with all these feelings. And even though it is a great ending, I think the story is just very well written overall. It is the kind of story that just leaves you like missing the characters and wishing you could keep learning and discovering what they're doing with their lives and how things are moving forward. You know what I mean? So, this was definitely one of my favorite reads. And it's definitely one of those books that made me feel so nurtured and so, understood and cozy. And, it was really like a hug. It was like a warm hug. So, if you're looking for something that is very, very in depth about how humans deal with life in different stages of their life, this is definitely it. And I really hope you feel the exact same way that I did when reading this, because this is just a wonderful book. Okay, so the second book that I want to talk to you about is a book that I actually borrowed from the library, but it also went into my top 5 reads of the year and maybe of all times, and that is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. This was actually my first book by this author that I ever read, and I can safely say that Frederick Bachman is definitely one of my favorite authors so far. I'm actually reading another book by him, Beartown. I'm actually very excited about it, but Anxious People is definitely one of those books that after I read it, I was just so touched and inspired. And it kept me thinking for a long time. And every once in a while, I remember like specific scenes from the book, or, um, Michael, or, I remember one of the characters or something that happened in that book that somehow made an impression on me. So it's definitely a read that I highly recommend. So, Ancient People tells the story of a bank robbery gone wrong. It's actually a bank robbery that turned into a hostage situation, and everything was very accidental and definitely not at all planned. And the thing I like most about this book, and I think this is something that really defines this author's style, is how he portrays the point of view of many different characters while telling the story. And I think that for this book particularly, this really gives the impression of how we're actually all connected, and how one man's action can actually reflect on another man's response or on another man's life. And I feel like this is so interesting and so touching to me, how we are actually all connected, and something that I do can impact your life, and something that you do can impact my life, and that somehow we are always interfering with one another. But the way we respond to it and what we do with those interference, I feel, is like what defines us as human and what really connects us to each other and build relationships. So I really feel like this book shows us how far empathy can go, and how important it is to really understand the context each person is inserted into, so that we better understand why they act the way they act and why they respond to things the way they do. and really the motivation behind everything, and really how something that happened decades ago or a long time ago can actually influence our whole life and dictate our decisions, our choices, um the way we and the way we interact with one another. So this is what this book represents to me. It was really a wonderful reading. Frederick Backman is so funny. His books are like so amusing. He has a way of describing scenes and creating dialogues that is just, you just really laugh out loud, and it also makes you so emotional. And I cried a lot while reading this. I cried a lot when I finished this book, but I also laughed a lot. So it was kind of like a happy crying, a little bit of mixed feelings, I think. But it's definitely one of those books that will stick with you for a very long time. And it did give me that cozy feeling, that warm hug feeling. Like, we all make mistakes, we all make bad choices, we all screwed up from time to time, but having people to lean on and talking about things that hurt us and just looking for closure in a way that works for us and not necessarily for someone else is so important and can really go a long way. So if you're looking for a very amusing, um, different type of story, then this is definitely the book for you. So the third book I want to recommend to you is Freshwater for Flowers by Valérie Perrin. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but this is a French author, and this was also the first book of hers that I read. I think it was also her debut novel. I'm not certain. I'll definitely put that information or confirm that information anywhere on the screen. But it was my first read from her, and this was a book that I actually dreaded finishing because it was just so good. And the book follows a woman that really had a very, very harsh life. She now manages a cemetery in France, and the story follows not only her day to day life as, the administrator or the manager of that space, the cemetery, but also how she develops her relationship with the main male character and how their backstories influence their life now. And, it really is a story that goes back and forth between past and present. And I feel like this was such a beautiful story because it talks a lot about grief. It talks a lot about dealing with loss, about finding joy and the everyday things. Even working at a cemetery, the main character definitely knows how to create her own happiness. And I love the analogy that she keeps mentioning in the book, that the cemetery is gray and dark and sad and somber, but the inside of her house is always colorful. She's always wearing this colorful clothes underneath her cemetery clothes. And she just finds a way to create happiness and find joy even after living such a hard life and having so many hardships and having to deal with this really out of the ordinary profession and deciding if she wants to open herself again for love or not. So I think this is a very beautiful, touching story. Definitely goes through some harsh topics, mainly grief, I believe. That is the main topic of the story. And the ups and downs of having to understand how to move on when a part of you is forever lost. So it is a beautiful book, beautifully written. I also think about it from time to time. Some passages from the book that comes to mind, and it's one of those books that I just did not want to finish. So if you're looking for something that is from a non-English speaker author, something from that portrays a different type of culture, a different way of facing life, this is definitely it. Is the kind of book that will make you be grateful for the things that you have and to try to be a little bit more like the main character and incorporate a little bit of her way of looking at things and facing life and challenges, which is amazing. The book also goes to other characters' POV, so it gives you different perspectives on how different characters, important characters, faced each type of situation and how they are dealing with it in the present. So it's very interesting how the book was constructed. It was not like an usual way of following a narrative, that's for sure. But again, I absolutely loved it. I think it was a wonderful read, and I definitely recommend it for anyone that is looking for the type of book that will leave you wanting more, but also fill your cup completely. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely another one of the books that I recommend. Okay, so last but not least, the last book that I wanted to recommend to you is The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector. If you don't know this, Clarice is a Brazilian author. She's the type of author that I read at school when I was a teenager, very classic in terms of literature in Brazil. And this is just a tiny book with a lot of emotions. So, The Hour of the Star follows Macabea, which is a very unfortunate character. She has a very hard life, and her story is actually being told by the point of view of another character that really is very skeptical of how she faces her own life. So, the narrator, which is definitely a non reliable narrator, he is having a hard time understanding how someone that should be so unhappy and, miserable with their own life is actually free and joyful and somehow lighter than everybody else. And again, the book is very short. I think it's not even 150 pages long, but it's the type of story that will just haunt you for the rest of your life, but not in a bad way, but in the sense that it will make you kind of like revisit all your life's choices and make you question your view on life and how much money and power and fame really can bring us the happiness and the fulfillment that we really need. And of course, that we have to consider privileges and how money actually can buy us time and well being and a bunch of stuff that we actually need in order to be happy and fulfilled. But in terms of mentality, this book really challenges the way that we face life. And it's such a powerful book and so small. This is the thing that baffles me the most. Is like a really small book, a really short book, but still it's so powerful and so impactful and really leaves you thinking and rethinking your life and your view of the world and the way you face your own difficulties and misfortunes and how you'd like to move forward with yourself and your life. So there you have it. Four books that feels like a warm hug but are actually not cozy at all. They will punch you in the heart. They will make you cry, they will make you laugh, but overall I feel like the ultimate feeling is that you're being hugged and nurtured and really understood from a very deep level. And I really hope you enjoyed these recommendations. Let me know in the comments which one you would like to read first, or if you ever read any of this and your impressions of these books. I would really like to know. And yeah, I think that's it. To finish, I just like to invite you all to sign up for my newsletter, The Soft Rebellion. The first new essay will go live this weekend, and I'm very excited about this project, and I hope you like it. Right, Michael? Yeah. Okay, so that's it for me today. I hope you have a great day. I hope you have an amazing weekend and you enjoy this lovely reads. Michael is demanding my attention. So if you stay until the very end of this video, please comment a little doggy so that Michael is happy. Okay, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.